Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So today I am looking at trekking pole tents. The first trekking pole tent that I ever got was the 3FUL Langshan one with the 4 seasons inner. It's probably still up there with one of my favourite tents. The second trekking pole tent that I ever got was the Durston X-Mid 1-person. That's a bit different. It uses 2 trekking poles for the 1-person version and the 2-person version. If you're thinking of going into the, we'll say, the ultralight market with tents for a budget-friendly price, well then I think trekking pole tents are absolutely the way to go. You're saving on weight because your trekking poles are the poles for the tent. NatureLink is a company that sent me on these 2 tents. I have never ever pitched these before. I've never known anything about the company before, but this is the Altair 1 and this is the Altair 2. So I wanted to show you the differences, the sizes and the cost. So maybe it might help your decision if you ever want to go down the road of buying a 2-person versus a 1-person. The 1-person is going to be lighter, you have less space. A 2-person obviously is for 2 people, but especially in winter, if you want to have a lot more space for all your gear inside in the tent, well then the 2-person is perfect for that. Let's have a look at them, let's see what's inside in the bag, let's put them up and see how easy it is, and then let's go through some of the specs. Okay, so this you have a nice roomy pack, nice width as well to get into it. So you have the tie points, which I very rarely hold on to. So this is the outer. Nice material actually. Has the same feel as the Langshan really. I know this is 20D ripstop, but anyway, nice bright guy lines. Look, we'll go through that in a minute. So this is the inner. Let's see what kind of pegs we get. Oh, nice green colour. Never seen these. Anything else? No. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You get 8 pegs. And they're like a tea green. Really cool. Just they're aluminium. They're fairly light. I think what we'll do is we're just going to start by pegging out the 4 corners. It's the usual way these tents go up. Might be the easiest way to do it. We'll put the pole to 120. Doesn't really say what height to go to, but 120 or 125 seems to be the norm. So we'll go with that. So that went up very, very easy. Just 2 pegs on one side, 2 pegs on the other, 1 at the back and then 1 at the door. Thing is, I've only 2 pegs left. And I have 4 guy lines. Like, why? Like, why not just give us enough? Like, I don't know whether that's a mistake. I'll know now from the 2-person when I put it up, but it doesn't make sense to me. But so far, very, very easy to pitch. Let's get these on. So I have spotted one thing that is a bit of a worry, but it mightn't be a worry at all. But I will show you in a few minutes. But for now, let's get the second one up, see what it's like. Very same kind of setup, it's just a bit wider. Let's start with the corners. So again, let's just go 120. Seems to have worked. These are very, very easy tents to put up. They really, really are. I have 8 guy lines left and 3 pegs. That's worse than the 1-person. Seriously, like, I don't know. Anyway, I'll just use the 3 that I have and let's go through it. Oh! What? The one thing I was worried about has already happened, but luckily it didn't rip the tent. And I'll show you in a minute. So let's go through some of the features. Fairly easy enough to put up, being totally honest. I just don't understand why they didn't give us enough pegs. I really, really don't. Anyway, let's do it. So the company is called NatureLink. Let's go around the outside of each of them and I'll show you what they're like. Okay, so you don't have any storm flap for any of the doors. It seems to be this rubber waterproof seal. So this is interesting. At least you're going to get no flapping. So that will save on weight. Good air vent up here. Obviously, you tie this out if you had enough pegs. The door has 2 separate guy lines that go onto the same peg, so, and both of them separately can tighten up. Unfortunately, it's just a one-way zip. Okay, likewise here, just a tie out point, another tie out point. Then you have one here at the back, there, one at the side, and then your normal. So your inner and your outer all go to the same peg. You have your tie out point here for the door and a tie out point here for the door. So the colour actually looks grey, but it's actually a tea green is what they call it. It has a bit of a hint of a green to it, alright, I will say that. A bit like myself. This is the 2-person. So a lot bigger, but let's go around the outside. It's fairly the same. So you have a guy line here, one here for the air vent, very same zip system, and it opens up fully 2 doors, which is actually great. Another guy line here, tie out point here, a guy line there, and then on the other side it's the very, very same. But I suppose the difference is the width. You get a lot more space in the 2-person versions. So in terms of weight, there isn't a whole pile of a difference in between these. I suppose if you had more pegs, it would be heavier. Again, it's all down to saving weight from using the 2 poles that you have. So this is around the 1.4, and that's just over the 1 kilogram. So for an extra roughly around 400 grams, you're getting twice the space nearly, but it all depends what you want. And pack size isn't a crazy difference either. So let's have a look at the inside. Just tie this back, very handy. Actually, do you know what? I'll tie back both of them, just for the sake of it, so you can have a good look at the inside. Okay, this is the inner, there's no peg out point here. You know, on the Langshan it has like something that goes around this, but that's alright. It's very much a 3 seasons inner, but in saying that. So, opens fully up, fully back. It ties back as well, and ties back here as well. So there isn't very much of a bathtub design. It's fairly low to the ground. Bit saggy on the inside, but that'll all come with practice when putting it up. It has one just small pocket on the inside, but I am having one issue that I will highlight at the end. So let's check measurements. So the width is 110 centimeters, and that's not all the way around, because it goes back further. So each corner to corner would be your sleeping area. That's 800 millimeters, and then the full length of the unit, 210 centimeters or 7 foot. So height wise will depend on the pole, but if you do it to the normal, which is about 120, what you have on the inside will be 90 centimeters up high. But you can adjust that to suit yourself. It looks like this needs to go a bit higher, but it's like all trekking pole tents, they take a lot of practice to put up. It's so worth, if you are getting a trekking pole tent, put it up out your back garden a few times. Get used to it. The Langshan takes so long to put up. But the X-Mid is totally different. That takes no time to put up. It really doesn't. But all trekking pole tents, if I were you, if you're getting one, practice out the back garden. So that's the 1-person, okay? Let's have a look at the 2-person, see what it's like. A little hairy Molly has visited us. Again, this will probably need to be worked on a bit more. Obviously, if we had enough pegs, that would be tied out. And if that was tied out, you'd get the better tension there. And you'd be relying on the doors to keep the actual tent in place. So you do need this one on. There is a 2-way zip system here, but it only zips on one side. Okay, so the inside is fairly saggy, and that's my fault. Again, as I mentioned, if you're getting a trekking pole tent, you really need to practice putting it up. They do need practice. But I will show you the inside of the very badly put up tent. Okay, so we get a full length pocket here. You can see how off center the actual inner is, but I think that's down to the fact that there's no guy line here. If that was pulled over, yeah, that would be more structurally sound, we'll say. Okay, on this side there's another very long pocket, which is fairly good. There is one big hook point in the middle, and yeah, that's fairly it. So the height, you're talking about 100 centimeters, a meter is what you're checking. So the width, you are 112 centimeters, and the length you have 226 centimeters. So there is plenty of room in here. As mentioned, it is a 3 seasons inner with plenty of room, with a difference of about 400 grams. And it's a fairly windy day today, and they're holding up quite well with not all the guy lines on. So the quality of the material is actually fairly good. There is no loose threads around the place that I can see. There'd be good venting here. So I do really like the actual build quality of it. It doesn't actually give a hydrostatic head value like a 3000 or 2000 millimeter hydrostatic head. Material for both tents, they just say it's a nylon based ripstop material with waterproof coating on them. So I presume they're waterproof, but only time will tell. I'll give them a good go. The one big issue that I see, and it already happened to me, is this. Okay, one of my worries is the eyelet here. So that is at the top of the tent, and that takes the top of your trekking pole. So my biggest worry is it all depends on the eyelet, and it all depends on what kind of trekking pole you have. Like that rests just on the top of it, but the carbide goes in. It is stopped from the other side. If that ever slips, that's going to be going straight through the top of your tent. And that's a big worry. It already happened to me when I was assembling the tent, where it popped out, and when I looked, it was actually resting on the actual material itself. So the X-Mid is the very same, and I know a lot of people don't like that setup. I never had an issue with the X-Mid so far. I know Paul Mesner changed the way he puts the pole into the X-Mid by putting a sleeve over the actual handle itself. The Langshan has the pole the opposite way around, where it actually uses the handle off the pole to put the tent up. But this uses a system that I worry about. Once it's in place when everything is tight, right? Problem is, if you have a peg that pops in the night time, or a guy line that gets loose, and if there's any movement at all, it doesn't take much for this to pop out, and if it pops out, your tent is ripped. If this is your introduction to trekking pole tents, well then, normally they're very similar to this. So you have the single pole, which is the minimalist one, will be normally under a kilogram. And then you have the 2-person, which a lot of people just use because there's a lot more space for one person in it. In terms of cost-wise, you're looking at about €160 for the Altair 1, and the Altair 2, you're looking at about €200. I'll leave the links and all the information in the description. So it's well worth it if you're looking for a budget-friendly tent, and an ultra-light tent at that. In terms of pros and cons, it's hard to do pros and cons when I haven't fully used the tent out in the actual, in a tested environment, we'll say. But I am worried about the eyelet at the top for the actual pole. I don't like that setup, and I'd worry in case that would go through the tent. But, as I mentioned, the X-Mid has the very same thing. And it's something I always worried about the X-Mid as well, and I never had an issue. It did pop already here for me though. That's the worry, and it can very easily go through the tent. That's my worry. I really don't understand why you didn't give us enough guidelines. It makes zero sense to me. I know if you're trying to save weight, but like, I don't know. I really don't know why you just don't give enough. There should be even extra ones in there. But anyway, so that's the NatureLink Altair 1 and the NatureLink Altair 2, and this is the single pole, this is the double pole, 1 person, 2-person tents. So I hope this helps you make your decision of what you want to do if you're ever thinking of getting a trekking pole tent. Hope you enjoyed the video. Put some comments in the description. Let me know what you think, see if I missed anything. And look, thanks for joining me. We'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.